I'm coming at you now from a point of view that we are all on the same side because we are all Americans, and I would like to believe that everybody, no matter how much you despise Trump, that you would be in favor of the election process in this country being fair. Your responses can't be just that you're 100% sure that there was no kind of funny business and that it was perfectly legit, and like you're 100% sure of that. So anybody that questions it is completely out of their mind. And I'm just here to tell you why that's not the case. And I'm going to go over a report today that was published this morning that none of the lying media wants to talk about. Audit that they were able to do because the judge in Michigan gave them access to 22 Dominion voting machines. So I know you think it's a bunch of conspiracies and all of this stuff, but if it came down to it, you have to ask yourself, would you, by any means necessary, you would like to get rid of President Trump by any means necessary, which means you don't care if, as long as you get the result that you want, you don't care about any kind of funny business. What's the damage that could possibly do to the country? I'm sure some of you out there are like, it doesn't matter as long as Trump's out of office. It couldn't be any worse than having Trump in office for another 4 years. It's probably coming from the same people that told me that the riots would stop when Biden got elected, and when Trump's out of office, all of it will calm down. Divided we stand, divided we fall. That's the truth. That's the case in every country and every social construct that has ever existed since the dawn of time. If the people are divided, the country will fall. So a judge in Michigan gave them access to 22 voting machines, and here's the results of what they found. Okay, this is a breakdown of the votes tabulated for the 2020 election in this county that they got the access to these voting machines. You can see here that the votes change all 3 times. They did 3. They did the election on November 3rd, then they recounted it on November 5th, and then on November 21st, they recounted it again. It's a little bit weird that there's thousands of votes that are off. So where's the mistakes happening? What's going on? Why are all the numbers constantly changing? I mean, you can expect there to be mistakes. That's not fraud. I try to be very reasonable about how I look at it. And it's kind of fishy when, if you know that everything was done legit and you aren't afraid of being, of any kind of unlawful activity, then why are you so adamant about just looking at it? Why are you so adamant about comparing signatures, about not allowing that? It's been almost 45 days since the election, and the whole 45 days, it's been like fighting tooth and nail just to look and take a double check. Hearing after hearing that isn't being televised on media, that you can watch 3, 4, 5, 6 hours of hearings that they're listening to the witnesses that actually signed thousands of affidavits, gave sworn testimony to what they saw during the election process. The fact that the media doesn't even want to cover it, it's a total disservice to this country. And anybody that thinks that it's okay to censor the way that they're censoring is wrong, because it's not okay just because it's the person that you don't agree with. You understand that, right? It's not okay. The problem is that you can ignore it all day long, but the truth of the matter is that this stuff is really happening. In these cases of these machines that they observed, 68% of the votes were errors. So, okay, that's a problem. But what happens is when it has an error, then it goes into one of 2 piles. It's either a regular ballot or one with a discrepancy. These ballots, they go to adjudication. Adjudication happens in an office where the person that's actually at the keyboard decides what they want to do. They're supposed to be honest. They're supposed to be like, okay, this is what this person intended. The ballot got torn, or like it was just, they marked it too many times or whatever. it's supposed to be a process where, they fix it and they put it through the machine and they move on. Well, all of the logs are gone. All of the logs are missing. Okay? It's crazy. They're pretty important. It says that these logs would contain domain controls, authentication failures, error codes, the times that the users logged in and off, network connection to file servers between file accesses, internet connections, the times, the data transfers. There's no reasonable explanation for why these security logs are missing. Then on November 21st, somebody goes in there, an unauthorized user. You'll find out that, a lot of these people shared passwords, they shared user logins, and this is purposeful because this is so how you can't trace exactly who it was. Regardless, it was an unauthorized user. They unsuccessfully attempted to zero out the election results. Don't you find a problem with that? Do you think it's okay that they went in there and tried to clear out the machine? Because that's what they did. Why is that? They're showing for all the other years. Why are they missing for this particular year? The tabulator tape totals were significantly altered by utilizing two different program versions from October 23rd and November 5th. If you listen to the hearings, you would hear several people saying that they know that these machines were connected to the internet. Creates a whole other slew of problems. But the bottom line is, it's the best practices, according to the software, is that you're supposed to leave that off and you're not supposed to connect to the internet. But it still gives you the ability to connect to the internet, which makes you wonder why. December 6th, our forensic team visited Antrim County Clerk Office to perform forensic duplication of the county election management server running Dominion Democracy Suite. Fine. They got forensic copies of all of it. At the onset of the collection process, we observed that the initial program thumb drive was not secured in the vault with the CF cards and other thumb drives. We watched as the county employees searched throughout the office for the missing thumb drives. Eventually, they found the missing thumb drive in an unsecured, unlocked desk drawer, along with multiple other random thumb drives. All of the voting information is on these. They're supposed to be secured. Like, you're not supposed to be able to access them. You're not supposed to be able to pull them out and give them to your friends and pass them along and throw them in a drawer with random other ones. You're just not supposed to be allowed to do that. That's not okay. And this is all going to come out. It's all going to come out. It's funny that, when you post something that you find that you feel like, should be shared or whatever, and people just automatically attack you and they're like, you're just a crybaby. You need to get over it. You're so crazy. All of these Trump people, they're so crazy. They're out of their mind. Okay, but have you actually looked at any documents, or do you just believe what CNN tells you? Or you just go along with the narrative that everybody is thinks it's cool to believe in? Because you're just cheating yourself. Literally, you're cheating yourself out of information. And I actually do read the documents. I actually don't rely on the news to tell me what's in a document that I can read myself. And if you do, you should question that, because these people cannot be trusted to tell you the truth. And that's up to you. Nobody's going to force you to actually look at documents, but there are ways around being manipulated by media. And, call it a conspiracy theory or not, there's a lot of shit going on that you don't want to know about. That's why it's so easy for you to pretend it's not happening. The truth is, there's some crazy, nasty, evil shit going on in this country. And I'm just going to show you this document, because absolutely no trending on Twitter. Nobody's talking about it on the news. It's so crazy that they went out of their way so much to avoid the Hunter Biden thing. The Hunter Biden laptop, that I shared on Facebook right here. And I told everybody, look at this, just look at it. The FBI actually has it. And they've absolutely said that it's Hunter Biden's laptop. But you guys told me that I'm full of shit, that it's not true, and nobody wanted to believe it. And that's fine. But guess what? All your media friends are talking about it now. Isn't that funny? You think they didn't know about it before? They just found out about it, right? Hunter Biden just found out that his taxes are being investigated, right? Okay. I'd like to sell you a bridge in New York. Since everybody's moving out of here, you can't even get a U-Haul for 6 months. because that's how crappy it is to live here. Our governor is trying to make the vaccine mandatory, even though he didn't want to even give it to us or allow us to decide if we wanted to take the vaccine, because he doesn't like Trump and the way that he was going to distribute it. And everybody's saying that it's not going to come out till next spring, and the medical professionals aren't going to get it. It's a bunch of nonsense. I mean, the vaccine is almost 1 million doses have gone out on a FedEx truck, you saw. So I'm not going to be like this person that's like, I told you so, but I'm trying to just give you this, what I know is an official document from a supposedly unbiased third party that did an investigation of forensic analysis on the voting system, the voting machines that you think are 100% no fraud. And how do you know that? How do you know that? You're so quick to say that there's absolutely no fraud, but how do you know that? Why won't you look? Because you hate Trump so bad that you don't care about anything. So I'm just not going to do that. So anyway, okay. We talked about the fact that the drive was in a desk drawer. The USB drives were not stored securely on site. The election data package files were already moved to an unsecured desktop computer and were residing on an unencrypted hard drive. Listen to this shit. Listen to this. I mean, I'm not a forensic cyber nothing, but listen to this, what I'm about to tell you. The fact that they had such bad security on these machines is unbelievable. The Microsoft SQL Server database was not protected with a password. The admin passwords are reused and shared. We already talked about that. The reason is because nobody can actually trace back who it was that tried to zero out all the data. It's just shared from, 5, 10 people can share the same passwords and nobody will know who did it. Smart, right? Their antivirus is 4.5 years outdated. 4.5 years. The Windows updates, 3.86 years out of date. Windows. The computer was last configured on April 10th, 2019. The Windows updates were 2.11 years out of date. The user of the computer, they use a super user account, right? And that gives them all kinds of power over the machine. They can change votes. They can say, oh, blah, 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 type it in. Okay. Now, I'm going to show you the settings that they use, because they actually took an image of the settings, and you can see on the settings the different things that they had checked that they could use all these features, right? So the hard drive was not encrypted at rest. So if hard drives are removed or initially booted off an external USB drive, the files are susceptible to manipulation directly. Antivirus definition is 1,666 days old on 12/11/20. It's unbelievable, because USB drives, it says, are the most common vectors for injecting malware into computer systems. The failure to properly update the antivirus definition drastically increases the harm caused by malware from other machines being transmitted into the voting system. There are 15, that's right, 15 additional updates that should have been installed on the server to adhere to just the Microsoft standards to fix unknown vulnerabilities. Seriously, this type of security that they had wouldn't even fly for like a normal government office computer, not even like a high security computer, just any government computer. None of this would have fly. Of the 15,676 events, 10,667 critical errors and warnings, or a 68.05 error rate. The errors were related to configuration, so that it was set up this way so that the ballots could move to adjudication, where they could change them to whatever they want. 81.96% of ballots were rejected. Some of them were actually reversed due to the ballot's size exceeds maximum expected ballot size. What does that tell you? Because aren't these ballots all supposed to be the same size? The fact that the ballot goes in the machine and they're like, oh, wait, it's not the right size. It's bigger than the normal ballot, the actual genuine ballot. Because, I mean, I'm not going to say for sure that they were printing them, but there's a lot of evidence that kind of leads you one to believe that they're printing up ballots. Like, why are they traveling with ballots? Why is a UPS guy or a USPS guy with a truck full of ballots going from New York to Pennsylvania? Why are they driving across state lines with a bunch of ballots? I don't know. Like, I'm sure there's some reason. The updates installed were 2 years, 1 month, and 13 days behind the most current update at the time that they were there, which is like December 10th. Shared usernames and passwords mean that these changes can be made by anybody and in an anonymous fashion. This gives the system operators carte blanche to adjudicate ballots, in this case, 81.96 of the total cast ballots with no audit or oversight. There were configuration errors throughout the setup, election, and tabulation of results. The last error for Central Lake Township Precinct 1 occurred on November 21st at 2:35 in the afternoon. 2 minutes earlier, on November 21st at 1:53, a user attempted to zero out election results. They didn't have permission to do that. Why would they try to? We also know that they were destroying ballots, envelopes, because they didn't want to compare the signatures. Like, why would you destroy it? It violates all kinds of law. That's the bottom line. It doesn't matter what I think or what you think. It's completely against the law what they're doing. And nobody can argue that. I mean, you could tell me I'm crazy all you want, but it is what it is. Like, this is evidence. And whether you like it or not, somebody needs to listen to it, because there's 80 million people that voted for Trump in this country that deserve to know that that the election was not a fraud. And when you have the other side that just refuses to even acknowledge that it could be possible, it's almost like there's no communicating. And when you attack people for just even bringing it up, it makes you look like a horrible, I mean, it just makes you look so sick with Trump derangement syndrome that you can't even think straight. Fine, hate the guy. I don't care if you hate him. I don't even like him half the time. That's not what this is about. What this is about is the fact that the swamp is so deep in Washington that we have allowed it to get so bad that these people think that they are above the law. Nobody's even worried about getting caught doing anything. They try to impeach Trump over this Russian or Ukraine, that they were saying that Trump was trying to interfere with the election because he told the president of Ukraine to look in to Hunter Biden and Burisma, the most corrupt gas company in the world. And everybody knows it. It's not just me saying that. The prosecutor was fired because Joe Biden told him, we're not giving you $1 billion in aid unless you fire that prosecutor. And he's on camera saying it. It couldn't be more clear or straightforward. Guess what? The prosecutor was fired that day. Even though, and they say, oh, well, he was corrupt. He made them fire a corrupt prosecutor. Really? The guy has no record, never been accused of any kind of crime, has zero anything on his record. He has actually talked to people and said, I wasn't doing anything wrong. They just told me I couldn't because I was investigating Burisma. I had their assets froze. Literally, Biden told them, we are not giving you $1 billion in aid unless you fire this prosecutor. That's odd. Why is his son making $85,000 a month when he has no knowledge of natural gas? Oh, and you know, the fracking, all of this fracking stuff. Why do you think that Biden wants to get rid of fracking? Why do you think they don't want fracking here? Why do you think they're annoyed that we're energy independent now? Because Trump came along and said, we're not relying on you for our energy anymore, our natural gas. We're not relying on you. We're getting our own. We have plenty. We have more than anybody. Now we're exporting it. But guess what happens? If we stop fracking, then we get to buy the gas from another country. Oh, it just happens to be my own son's on the board of that, getting paid $85,000 a month. The whole Biden laptop has all kinds of evidence on there of Joe Biden and Hunter Biden. I mean, there's literally text messages of Hunter Biden talking about how he has supported financially the family for all of these years. Every email that is in that laptop that has been brought up in the public, but nobody wants to cover it because they were literally trying to shield it from the public. And even if you don't like Trump, you should want to know what's going on. You should want to know that this is happening, that these deals that they were doing through email was like, okay, we'll set aside, we'll give you 50 million or whatever. We'll give the big guy, he gets 10 million. We'll put that in on the side for him. He gets keys to the business office with the name on the door. And you're telling, nobody thinks that he had anything to do with his son's business dealings. He took him over and introduced him to these people in Ukraine and in China. Hunter Biden walks out of China with all kinds of money, all kinds of billions of dollars. China would love nothing more than to take over the United States of America. And if you don't believe that, you should really look into it, because China's becoming very powerful. They're a powerful country now. They're powerful. The fact that we're trying to make them actually pay the same kind of taxes on goods that we're paying them, why should we have to pay and they don't have to pay? Why? Shouldn't it be fair and free trade? Why is America always paying for everybody else? And when anybody questions it, it's like, oh no, you're not allowed to question it. It's become so bad that they're locking us in our homes. Does America, with the best healthcare system in the entire world, have the most 5 times more COVID than any other country? Explain that to me. Could it possibly be that these tests are not that truthful? Hold on a minute. Let me show you something. I have something about that from Johns Hopkins University. 185,000 individuals will test positive, okay? 142,500 will be true positives, and 42,500 will be false positives. That's 23% of those testing positive are not actually infected. It says it right here. So, you got to wonder what's going on with that. You got to wonder why we're having all of these cases, like 300,000 a day, and nobody else in the world is. Like, we have the best healthcare system and we have all this. We have 5 times more COVID than any other country in the world. I don't know. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And I don't think it's a fake virus. I think it's a real virus. I'm not sitting here acting like it's not a real thing. I don't think it's made up. I think people are dying. I think that, but also, there's nobody dying of the flu? Because the CDC has grouped together pneumonia, the flu, and COVID into one group of people, and all of them are COVID. Last year alone, we had 37, we had a lot of people. A lot of people died of the flu last year. A lot of people die of the flu every year. But if you look at the stats, it says out of all the cases in the entire world of COVID, the death rate is 3%. That's overall. In the United States, my point is that even though COVID is a real thing and it's a dangerous and we should be aware of it completely, but people are getting squeezed to death. The middle class is dying. The big box stores, the Walmarts, the Targets, this is the biggest shift of wealth we've ever seen in this country, ever. The middle class is dying while the big box stores and all these big stores are getting our money. We're spending that. We're buying Christmas gifts. We're buying Christmas lights. We're buying groceries. We're doing all these things, right? The economy is still going, but all the middle class people are getting squeezed out their entire lives. Their businesses are being shut down. the videos that you see of these restaurant owners that where, they spend thousands of dollars setting up an outside patio so that they could serve customers outside and their servers and their employees can continue to work, and they shut that down in California, but right next door they have an entire movie cast set up with tents and all this shit, and it's okay. It's not okay. And it's not okay. The lockdowns don't work because the same people, like the states that did lock down, like us here in New York, we were the first ones to lock down. We don't even leave the house without a mask on. You can't go into any public place without a mask on. And so we've been doing that since the first days because we were having the first people dying. And it was crazy. We've lost in New York, we've had way more than any other state, like New Jersey too. I think Pennsylvania or Massachusetts is right up there, but like the East Coast, we got it first. We've been locked down. The entire city of Manhattan is not what you remember it if you ever have been there. You think that New York City is going to continue to survive like this because we pay the highest property taxes in the entire country, and we pay the highest rent, mortgage, whatever you want to talk about. The property is more expensive here than anywhere besides San Francisco. They're getting squeezed out too, but Silicon Valley, they don't have a problem. Like, people are leaving the city so fast that you can't even reserve a U-Haul truck for 6 months. And that's the truth. There's lines outside of the U-Haul store waiting to get the keys so they can get the fuck out of here. Who can afford to live here? Even the rich people are moving. Not only that, but they're defunding the police, so then the crime rate is out through the roof. You want to defund the police? You really think that some social worker is... See, there's all kinds of databases online. There's all these, like, how police brutality. I mean, they should have been keeping track of what the police are doing to people way before now. But the media had to actually do that, which I give them a lot of credit for. They started a database like several years ago, keeping track of all of the people that are killed at the hands of the police. Okay. But the thing is that literally there were 8 Black unarmed men that died, or men, women, whatever. 8 unarmed Black people died at the hands of a police officer last year. And when you talk about unarmed, that could mean anything. I could be running at you with like a beer bottle, and that's unarmed. That counts as unarmed. Or maybe I want to commit suicide and I literally just don't have the balls and I can't figure out how to do it. So I do death by police, and that happens all the time. Believe me, it happens all the time. If the police officer is here's a tip for you. If you want to live, okay, and you get pulled over by the cops or you have an interaction with the police, if you want to live, I guarantee this will work for you every time. Don't resist. Do what they say and then fight it later in court. That's why we have a system like that. I'm not saying that cops are perfect. There's plenty of bad seeds. In fact, when I was looking into the database on the police deaths, I found a couple of police officers that were off duty that actually like shot their wife or shot someone else because, there is a type of personality that can get into that profession that enjoys power because you have power as a police officer. And that is, abused, I'm sure. I'm not trying to act like it never happens, but seriously, the racism thing, when a cop feels threatened, he doesn't care what color your skin is because they've been trained to see what happens when you aren't always thinking that, the potential of that happening. And then you got these people like George Floyd and this other guy that is now paralyzed. I feel horrible for him, but maybe he should have just fucking stopped when the police said to stop and stop continuing to go to his car with it. I mean, literally, they had a knife on the floorboard. You got these fact check things going on. The fact checkers, all they are is just propaganda. They're propaganda. They're using the lying media to justify their fake facts. There's a difference between opinion and fact. And when you go look at these fact checkers, you will see that most of them are they're giving you their opinion. And a lot of times they take like one thing was like, this dude was not carrying a knife while there's like three different things that he's being accused of in one sentence. And if one of those little things isn't true, then they say the entire fact is not true, the entire thing. But that's like three facts. 2 out of 3 are true, but we're going to say that it's completely bullshit because one of those things isn't true. Well, like, just break it down then into 3 different things, because there was a knife. The Breonna Taylor thing, it's like, here's a girl this innocent girl was killed in her own bed, in her apartment, innocent, like, didn't do anything wrong. And she's an EMT. She's like, works in as a medical professional. She's killed innocently. They were following her around for months. All of the paperwork was released, all of the data, all of the logs, all of the pictures. She bailed these 2 guys out of jail 2 or 3 times. She was on the phone with them. They were talking about the fact that they leave their money at her house. She was seen going to drug house, back home, back and forth between it. She was getting their mail at her house. There was no drugs there, but they had been following her for months. They had every reason to believe, and she wasn't working, by the way. She had quit her job 8 months before this happened. How was she making her rent? She was getting her money somehow. She quit her job. Neither of those 2 were working. They have recorded phone calls of her talking with her boyfriend and whoever. And I'm not saying she deserved to die. No, she didn't. George Floyd didn't deserve to die either. But if they would have released the entire footage, the body cam from the police, that was an hour long, it would show you more context about what happened with George Floyd. People were screaming on the side for him to just stop resisting. He refused to get in the car. He refused to do what they said. When they pulled up on his car, when they walked up to his window, he had drugs on him, and I'm pretty sure he ate the drugs. He swallowed them. And you can tell by the way that he was acting. He was on all kinds of drugs. He was totally paranoid. He would not listen to what they were saying. They were trying to be nice. They asked him a million times. It was excessive to put your knee on somebody's back and all that. But there was a lot more context. And no matter what, if you think that it was okay or not, it's not okay, but that's my opinion. But the bottom line is that your mind will change between seeing the 10 minutes clips that the media shows you and the entire body cam footage. You will see a different perspective because you will see the whole picture and not just 10 minutes of an hour long. Like, what they're doing this on purpose. They're doing this to keep you uninformed. They're doing this to keep you from knowing the whole truth. These people that they're using as these like martyrs for a cause is unbelievable. They're putting the names on helmets, and they're, all these people. Well, if it was happening so much that people were getting killed, that Black people were getting killed by police that much, then don't you think they would have found people that actually weren't like lifelong criminals, weren't like currently, with a warrant out because you stole, this guy that was shot in Kenosha, the lady where he was going to pick up his kids, he was going to this woman's house, his ex. She called the police. She said, he's taking my kids. He's got my kids. He's leaving with my kids. What are the police supposed to think? Here's a guy. He's got 2 kids in the front seat of his car. He won't listen. He's got warrant. He's already got a case that he's dealing with right now for some kind of sexual whatever, not rape, but it was, they see that information when they're on the way to a call. So if this was happening as much as they want you to believe it is, then why don't they pick some decent people to use as their guy? More likable characters than, even George Floyd. This guy had a gun up to a pregnant lady's stomach when he robbed her house and held her at gunpoint while his friends went through all her shit and stole her stuff. It's unbelievable. We all make mistakes. We all deserve to we all deserve to like have a second chance. Everybody makes mistakes. But here's a guy, George Floyd, he's got fentanyl, he's got speed, he's got whatever else. He won't do what the police are telling him. And that's how it happens. That's how it starts. But this is not just some random, because you're black, I'm going to like kill you. Police, it's, if that's what you want to believe, that's fine. But like, I think we've come a long way with the racism in this country, like accepting people. We, you know, when I was young, we couldn't even talk about being gay. We couldn't even like discuss it with our parents. And God forbid, if you had a biracial relationship, it was just not okay. It just wasn't okay. But throughout the generations, we see that that is not okay. And we don't want to be like that. We taught our children that it doesn't matter what color of skin you have. That's what we taught our kids. Now, all of a sudden, like, there's this huge race problem. Do you want to know how that works? It's called division, and race is the best way to divide people. It's one of the greatest ways. Hold on. Anyways, this is how it works. The tests, there's something wrong with these tests. The hydroxychloroquine, that works. It saves people's lives. Hydroxychloroquine saves people's lives. The fact that because Trump took it and promoted it, people fought against it with with their dying breath. They were like, you can't have it. Even though hydroxychloroquine has been around for 75 years, and anybody that goes over to Africa takes it before they go there to keep from getting malaria. Every person. Do you know how many people died because they were made it illegal for doctors to give out hydroxychloroquine? You want to talk about how Trump killed all these people? Seriously, hydroxychloroquine. Everybody's saying, oh, that could kill you. That, you know, you can't just be promoting that, trying to act like Trump tells people to drink bleach and stuff. And you know, the people that are saying that never actually listened to what he said. He didn't say to drink bleach. That's ridiculous. Hydroxychloroquine saves lives. We know that for a fact. If you get it early enough, you take it with some zinc and some other antibiotic, it will save people's lives. Why don't they want to give that? Seems odd, don't you think? When doctors all around the country were like, I want to prescribe this. Lenny and I both called up our doctor and we're like, if we get COVID, are you going to prescribe us hydroxychloroquine? Both of them said yes. Thank goodness. But there's plenty of doctors, even states, entire states, made it illegal for doctors to prescribe hydroxychloroquine to people that had COVID that were not in the hospital yet. Weird. Right here, it's telling you from Johns Hopkins. By the way, Johns Hopkins University, they published a paper about 2 weeks ago that talked about the truth about the number of people that are dying from COVID. It was a research paper that they had done. There was a lot of really interesting facts in this research paper that they published, and all of a sudden it was gone. Just one day it disappeared. But guess what? You can't really ever just take something off the internet and it's just gone. There's still, you can still find it. Lots of people have it. Go look at it. It talks about the actual number of people dying from COVID. But they yanked it down because, and the reason that they say is because they didn't want to spread disinformation. That's crazy. It's crazy. It's almost like people hate Trump so much that they would rather have the COVID just be out of control just to spite him. Nancy Pelosi came out and said straight up, the reason that you're not getting any stimulus money, she didn't want to give Trump a win. She said that with her own mouth. It's because she doesn't really understand what it's like. She's got like $15 pints of ice cream in her $20,000 fridge, right? She's getting her hair done while people are dying, literally can't afford groceries. The American people, that's our money. That's the taxpayers' money. And where is it? Oh, it's tied up in Congress because Nancy Pelosi can't get the shit added on there that you don't need a voter ID to vote. Really? Do you really think that voter ID is suppressing voters? Voter suppression. So you think that high of minorities, that you think that they don't have access to a driver's license, an ID card, they don't go to the store, they don't go to the bank, they don't actually work, because you need ID for all of these things, but you don't need an ID to vote? That's odd. Cuomo didn't want to put the vaccine in New York. He didn't want to distribute it in New York because he didn't like the fact that Trump was using CVS, Rite Aid, Walgreens to distribute the vaccine. He says that Black and brown communities aren't going to get it. They're not going to get access to it. No, you're mad because your cronies aren't getting the contract to distribute the vaccine, and so you would like all that money to go to your cronies and your friends. But instead, Trump's saving the American people money by distributing it through pharmacies, because every suburb in the state of New York and most states in this country have access to a CVS or a pharmacy. Like, name one place in the entire country that doesn't have a pharmacy, and I'll give you $20. Just one place. It's definitely not Brooklyn. It's definitely not New York City. It's definitely not anywhere in New York. New York's a big state, by the way. It's huge. There isn't one suburb in this whole state or country that, I mean, there's probably in the Appalachians and stuff, like, I'm sure that there's like places, but half the country is on prescription drugs. So the fact that you think that Black and brown communities aren't going to have access to a vaccine if they need it is ridiculous. Nobody's paying for it. It's completely free. I don't know. So this is the proof. This stuff that's happened, the fact that they did not ever update their systems, the fact that they literally, you see it with your own two eyes, that the votes changed constantly between just these 22 machines that we had access to. You can see obvious problems. So do yourself a favor and stop saying that there's absolutely that it's completely unmerited to question this. The Dominion Voting is a Venezuelan company. It is linked to Smartmatic, and it does have these options where you can change the value of each vote. You can decide what happens with certain types of votes. All the write-in votes went to adjudication. 80% of the ballots went to adjudication. Is that weird to you? It is quite weird when the fact that when the adjudication was happening, there's no way to see what was going on because nobody was monitoring anything. And where's all the logs? They're just gone. It's kind of crazy, right? Like, they're just gone. So, say what you want. I'm not telling you how to think. I'm just saying that if you love the country, you love freedom, you love the republic that we live in, because this is the best country in the entire world, and you know it. And if you don't, then it's just, I think you do know. And it can just be taken away. Every single communist revolution in the entire history of the world has similarities, and we're seeing them in this country as we speak. There's certain similarities. They all have it. 1917 in Russia, Cuba, Venezuela, China, any of them, Vietnam. Name a country that's communist or was communist, and look at how it happened. It happened to a bunch of people that said it would never happen to them. It happened to a bunch of people that were being censored, were being fed propaganda, were being completely lied to, and the election the whole election disputing thing, that's just par for the course. It happened in every single one of them. In Russia in 1917, they had an election that they stretched it out for 30 days past the actual election because they said that they didn't want to suppress voters, the people that couldn't get to the area to vote in time. So we need to extend the period of election out further so that everybody has a chance to vote, right? Every vote matters, right? Every vote. 30 days, they extended it. And when it came down to it, nobody could figure out who the winner was because everybody disputed the election. The people were completely divided by that point, being fed lies, propaganda. This is 1917, even in France. It happened in France. It's happened Karl Marx. Read some Karl Marx. You'll know exactly what they did. They know what works and what doesn't. It's part of the playbook. It never changes. It's the same. They hate capitalism, and that's fine if you don't like it. I respect that. We can still be friends. I don't have a problem with that. You can believe whatever you want. But this idea that, if you hate capitalism, America is probably not for you. That's my opinion. The American people are not going to stand for this election fraud. They're just not going to. You can call us any name you want, but people are going to be willing to stand up, and they're going to be willing to literally have a civil war over it. It's unfortunate, but that's the truth, because the right has been completely, like, when we lost the election, or I consider myself, because I did vote for Trump, but I'm fine with Biden winning the election if it's fair. I have no problem with it. I mean, I have a problem, of course. I don't like it. I'm very scared for the future of our country if it happens, but I will accept it. I will totally accept it. And then in 4 years, it'll be election time again. But the problem is that we know by thousands of people that have come forward, and all of this information that you see coming out, it's not just lies. They just don't want you to see it. And the only way that you don't know about it is if you choose not to see it. So I mean, if Biden wins and it's fair and people voted for Biden, more people voted for Biden, if Biden gets the electoral votes that it takes to win the presidency, by all means. We don't believe that happened, though. So I think that, it's just sad that we're so divided. And I think that we should try to find common ground at this point. We should try to find things that we have in common instead of just attacking each other for the political beliefs that they have, because we're not that different. Like, we're just not that different. But they have literally put out they have created an atmosphere where it's like such opposite sides that there's like almost nothing that can possibly bring us together for a decent conversation. I mean, that's horrible. So for everybody out there that thinks different than I do, believes different than I do, I respect you. I will have a decent debate with you anytime you want. I will still appreciate you, respect you, and treat you as a fellow American. And I hope that we can all do that for each other, because the other side might not be as evil as you think they are. And we all really want the same things, okay? We want a peaceful environment to raise our families. We want to go to work, have a job, save some money, buy a house, live the American dream, and that's what we want. And really, it's okay that we disagree on how to get there. So with that being said, sayonara.